I would like to talk about someone who was very dear to me, and some of you know who he is. Some of you have laughed at his comedy. Some of you have gone to his shows and have fallen out of your seats or your chairs or what have you because of the comedy that he gave you, and that person is my cousin David Chappelle. David Chappelle and I were first cousins. And I'm not going to continue saying David Chappelle. I'm going to use his first name because I've already introduced him and I as cousins, first cousins. And we are the Chappelles. Okay. David and I, we were very, very close. There were times when David and I would talk. I had his cell phone number and he had mine, and we would talk for hours on end. There was nothing that David would not or could not tell me, and vice versa with me to him. I mean, David had lots of Chappelle family members, and he had lots of cousins. But, but somehow or another, David and I, we became very close as family, cousin members, and and we just felt comfortable around each other. David was my yin and I was his yang, or vice versa, as you want to put it, but we were very close. Okay, David was married to his wife Elaine, as some of you all may know. She was a Filipino. She is a Filipino, and his mother's name was, we called her Auntie Vaughn, and he has a brother. His brother is named after David's father, William. He's a junior, and then David has a sister whose name is Felicia, and she is a full practicing Muslim. Well, David was he was a Muslim as well. And him and his wife Elaine has two sons along with a daughter, and their names, I'm not going to give you out their names, but they have names of Muslims. So now, that's the initial concept of what what I've said about the relationship that David and I have had together. Okay, now David loved his wife. He loved Elaine. He loved Elaine very much, and he loved his mother, especially after his father had died, because his mother was the only thing that he had that he could cherish at that time, and even today. And so he loved his wife, he loved his mother, and most of all, David loved his family, and he loved the farm. And as some of you may know, he has a farm in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and he has a special name for that farm, which I'm not going to discuss about, but he calls that farm a certain name. Now, and on that farm is acres and acres of land. And I'm telling you, David was a responsible person when it came to his wife, his children, his mother, his family, and particularly their farm. Okay. As some of you may know, David had the Chappelle comedy show. And David was doing good on that show. I mean, he was doing great. And David loved that show. David has always loved to make people laugh. And, laugh sometimes until your stomach hurts or tears come out your eyes. He was very, very funny. And David has always been a funny type person ever since the time he was a young boy, much, much younger. And even when he would come to family reunions, he would always... he would be the in the spotlight, making the family laugh, just laugh. And this is something that he always wanted to be, a comedian, to make people laugh. Well, come the time when David, he was the executive producer of the Chappelle comedy show, and as I stated before, he was doing fine. He was doing great. But David knew he had to be responsible for his wife, his children, his mother, and the farm, and for the rest of the members of the Chappelle family. And so he had to take things very serious and take the responsibility very heavy or high. So he did the Chappelle comedy show, and one day he was called into the executive office, and so David went in, and when he went there, he saw all of these executives and others that were around this table, and they had David surrounded like a clock, 12. Okay, and it made David a little nervous because he thought he was talking to a few executives, but not a whole slew of them and other people as well. So he went in to talk to the executive, and they had him surrounded, excuse me, like a clock number, and he being at the center of as number 12. Like a clock. Picture in your mind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all of them surrounded, and David was at the top, being number 12. Okay, now, do you get my drift now? Okay, so now, and I also want to say this as well, before I really get into detail about what they said and what they did to David. Now, it's just like when you go for a job, and they want you on that job for a certain period of time, or even a short period of time. When you go on the job, you have papers that you have to sign before you can even, have that position in that facility or what have you. So you have to sign a piece of paper, and especially if they want you there for a long period of time and you are on a salary, not paid per hour, but on a salary. Okay, so you're going to have to sign a piece of paper, and that states that you are with that company and you're there for that period of time. And that is sort of like a contract. Well, for David to have his own show, the Chappelle Show, even though he was the executive producer of that show, he still had to sign a contract. Now, some of you are thinking that he signed his name in blood before he left the executive office, but I'm here to tell you he did not. The only thing David signed when he first got into the industry or the entertainment world to appear on the Chappelle Show was a contract stating that the Chappelle Show would go on for a certain length of time for that season. You understand what I'm saying to you? For that season. Then after that season was up, then he would sign another contract for the next season. And it went on like that. And, so, when David went into the office, to the executive office, he had just finished up the second season. Okay. Now, so they had him at this table, and there was the executives as well as others who were in the office as well. So they asked David, they told him he was doing fine on the show. Great, the show was great, David, but except for one exceptional thing. And David asked, what? And they told David they wanted him to upgrade, or downgrade, I should say, on the black race. As far as the characters he was portraying. They wanted David to ease up off, making the black characters look as stupid as he was portraying them. They wanted him to ease up off the black race. They wanted him to make the black race more intellectual, more, you get what I'm saying. They wanted him to, to quit it. To quit, just hopping on the black race and making them look nonsense. Well, David said, to the executives and then some who were in the room, I don't understand what you're talking about. He said, because I portray the characters of the black race just like I portray the characters of the white race. And I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to keep both of them on the same level. Well, they didn't mind David downgrading on the white race, but they wanted him to quit downgrading, period, on the black race. And David said, no, well, I can't do that. And so then they said, okay, David, we're going to make a deal with you. And David said, a deal? They said, yes, a deal. They told David, we'll give you $50 million. $50 million if you could come and join our team and be a part of us and this and that. And they told him some other things, which I'm not going to discuss. But you can rest assured the things that they said to David, to tell him what he could do and what he couldn't do and this and that, and then the torture that they had and the pressure that they put pressure on this man, on David at that time of the meeting. Okay, and David said, no, well, if I accept $50 million from you, what would my fans think? And they said to David this. Well, your fans already think that you are a crack addict from the characters that you portray. You know, they already think that that you're a pothead, that you're a drug head. So it doesn't matter what your fans think; it's what you are willing to accept. And then they went on to put the pressure on him once more. And David, he said, no. I can't accept it. I can't accept the $50 million, and I cannot stop portraying the black race as the same as the white race. He said, no, I can't do it. I can't. You all want me to stop making the black race look foolish, but just continue. No, I can't do it. I have to treat the characters that I portray. It has to be on an equal level. You have to understand, David wasn't trying to make the black race look foolish. The only thing that he was doing comedy, just like Richard Pryor, just like Bernie Mac, just like any other top comedian of long ago and today. Red Fox, he wasn't, because see, David knew he was a black man, and David knew where his roots came from. He knew where his roots came from. And so David wasn't trying to make the black race look foolish. No, he was a comedian. He was telling jokes. And just as he did a character of a black person with big white, with the cocaine and all that stuff, with the white lips and what have you, well, he did the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but he portrayed the whites, as the same. So one thing I have to give credit to David about, David believed in keeping both races on an equal level. And then you got to take in for granted too that David was a comedian. Richard Pryor used to do it all the time. Richard Pryor stood up there and talk about the black race and how they, this and that and that and that and and then he went on and he said the same thing about the white race, this and that and this and all that. But the reason why, excuse me, the reason why they wanted David to quit being, or quit having the blacks to be foolish in the roles or the characters that he was playing was because at that time, they knew they had gotten word of that eventually there was going to be a black man to be ushered in as our new president. And they wanted people all over to think that, that black people were not this way and black people were not that way, because they were ushering in Obama. That's why they wanted, and David, he wasn't for that. Okay. So David told these executives, David told these executives, he said, well, let me think about this thing for a while. He said, because I can't give you an answer right now. He said, because all that you have said to me, is something where I got to think about. He said, I just can't give you an answer right now. And so with that, when David left out of that office, David called me. Now, I don't know whether he called his brother William or not. I don't know anything about that. But David called me and told me everything that they said to him in the executive office. David told me everything from A to Z. And what David told me, it caused me to get a headache. And if I had been in that room, and it would have scared the hell out of me, because it, in fact, scared the hell out of David Chappelle. And David told me, when upon talking to me, he said, "Cuz, I got to go." And I said, "You got to go?" He said, "Yes, I got to get out of here." I said, "Well, David, out of here where?" He said, "I'm going to Africa." And he said, I said, "Well, David, you're going to Africa?" He said, "I got to get my head clear. There's things." He said, I just have to have my own peace of mind." And I said, "Well, have you told?" He said, "Well, what about Elaine, David?" He said, "Well, I'll deal with Elaine. I'll call Elaine later." He said, "But right now, I got to go." Now, and I found out later, the only person that David had told of going to Africa was me, his brother William, and I think there was a possibility that it was Neil Brennan. And there's a highly thinkable on that. So David went on, and when I told David before our conversation, I said, "David, you go and do what you have to do." And I said, "But let me know when you get back in town." Okay. Some of you ask, why did he go to Africa? Because David was a practicing Muslim. And David went to Africa because he knew his fate was over there, his faith. And he knew that practicing Muslims was over there, and they would guide him or steer him in the right direction. Because now, his sister was and is today a practicing Muslim. Now, I want to remind you that when David went to Africa, where he was going, no one knew him, because David told me on the telephone, he said, "Now, cuz, where I'm going," he said, "where I'm going, no one knows me." He said, I hope they don't, cuz. I hope they don't. He said, "But I'm going there because I realize and I understand that there are Muslims over there." He said, "But I don't know them and they don't know me." And so I said, well, David, go on and do what you have to do. I said, well, just let me know when you get back. So that's what David did. He went on, and while David was away, I received phone calls. Now, I don't know whether David's brother William received any phone calls, because David's brother William, him and I, we were not as close as David and I were. Me and David, we were tight boys cousins. And so, but I know I received phone calls asking, "Have you seen David? Do you know where David is?" Even on the street, people would ask me, "This David, he's gone. David Chappelle, he's gone. Do you know where he's at?" And I knew where David was, but I could not tell anyone, because I told David during our conversation that I would never tell anyone unless he told me to tell them. And he told me on the telephone, "Because I want you to not let anyone know where I'm going." And I reminded him, I said, "David, what about Elaine?" He said, I'll call Elaine later on." He said, "But right now I got to go." So no one knew where David was. No one. Okay. And I knew that after what David had told me about the meeting with the executives, that I felt really good that David got the hell away. David went away to Africa. Stayed there for a while. When David got ready to come back, David called me and said, "Cuz, I'm back in town." Well, he let his wife know, and everything was fine there. And David, when he called me, he told me, he said, "I'm out of the entertainment world. I don't want to do comedy on television anymore." He said, I'm finished with all of that. I'm finished. I said, "Dave, are you sure?" He said, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with being on television, doing comedy." He said, "What I want to go back to is doing comedy at the little local comedy places." And I said, "Well, David, are you sure that's what you are?" He said, "Yeah, because he said, I have enough money to take care of my family and my farm and my mother and people in my family." He said, "But I just don't want to do any comedy on television." He said, I'm done. And so I'll just do the local comedy at comedy clubs. So I said, okay, David. I said, well, I'm not, this is what you want to do. But now, David, you know, once again, I want to ask you, David, did you sign your name in blood before you left when you were in the executives meeting? And so, David, because I told you, I didn't sign my name in any. Hey, cuz, the only time I signed my name on the contract was to do the Chappelle show. And he said, and I'm done. I'm done with that now. But as far as me signing any other contract, as far as what they say, name and blood, no, I didn't do that. I said, okay, David, that's good. I just want to make sure, this time. So, anyway, while talking to David, it gave me a sense of hope. That David was going to be all right because he was finished with the this Chappelle show, the comedy show on television, and then he wasn't going to do any more appearance on any other show, and so it gave me a sense of relief for him. But somehow or another, and I still give a question mark on this Neil Brennan, because now Neil Brennan spoke some bad words about David, and which I don't like, and David heard about it, and he didn't like it either. And so, because Neil Brennan was supposed to be one of David's buddies, and for him to say, to make a statement like he did, it was wrong. It was wrong. And I didn't like it, and the rest of the Chappelle family, we didn't like it, they didn't like it, and David didn't like it either. Okay, but they found out somehow that David was back in town, and he was doing, comedy at these little local comedy clubs and things like that. Then this one person, it was put upon her to find out why David went to Africa. Okay, so now, first, David went to the inside the actor's studio. He was asked to come and be on the show with the host there. And, David was fine. He went on the show, and the questions was asked to him, why did he go to Africa, and what went down? And I remember that David told exactly, the same thing that I'm telling you now, that how, this whole thing was kind of shaking, and he didn't want no parts of him. Then he also went and he told about Martin Lawrence. Now, Martin Lawrence, they did the same thing to him too. But Martin Lawrence, and no one today, we have not seen Martin Lawrence. No one knows where Martin Lawrence is. Because you know why? Martin Lawrence is dead. I mean, body, soul, spirit, dead. If you ever see a Martin Lawrence come back on the scene, it's because that Martin Lawrence, before they killed him, they made a clone of Martin Lawrence, and they have that clone in waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know. And but no one has seen Martin Lawrence. No one knows anything about Martin Lawrence anymore. But if you ever, and I say to you all who all are listening, if you see Martin Lawrence, then you know that he's a clone. And because they were supposed to, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith was supposed to be, they supposed to have done a film that was supposed to have came out last summer. Well, the film never did come out. Why? Because there was no Martin Lawrence. So, I'm just going to, so, anyway, just wanted to share that with you. But Dave Chappelle went on stage with, and was in the audience. It was a group of young people there who were interested in becoming comedians or becoming actors or what have you. And Dave went there to, to tell them about the business, about the Illuminati, because David felt that what they had said to him in the executive office, he wanted people to know what was going on, just as Martin Lawrence wanted people to know, just as Britney Spears wanted people to know, just as some of the stars here today want people to know about the Illuminati. So that's what David did. David wanted people to know what they were doing to him and what they were all about. So this is what he said on the stage. So he told them, to make sure that that was a sure thing for them to do, to go into, and he warned them, okay? And then the next person, and when I talked to David, I said, David, you should not go there, you should not go there, you should not go there. But David, he was so afraid that David wanted to expose the inner dark circle. He wanted to expose them. And so the next person who invited David on their show was Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey, and I told Dave, I said, Dave, please don't go there. He said, no, cuz I'm going to be all right. He said, but I just want to let people know. I want to talk, cuz I want to talk. So I said, okay. So David went on that show. And now, and if you notice or not, when David was on that show, on Oprah Winfrey's show, Oprah was trying to coach him along and saying to him, but you did, you were stressful, weren't you? And David was saying, no, anybody was under stress of what they said to me in that office, but she wanted David to admit things that were not true with David, that was not going on with David at that time. And if you watch the taping show of Oprah and David, if you notice or not, David was looking around to make sure that no one else was coming in behind him. David was fearful of even being on the Oprah show. And then another thing, if you take notice or not, when Oprah was talking, David had his hand over his mouth, and like he was saying to himself, Oprah, I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. And so, but David was fearful of being on the Oprah Winfrey show. And not only with the appearance that he was making, the gestures, this sort of thing, and the looking around, but when David left the Oprah Winfrey show, I got a phone call. And who was the phone call? None other than David Chappelle. And he told me some things that he speculated of Oprah Winfrey. And I said, David, I told you not to go on that show. I told you not to go on that show. Because Oprah is already into that dark circle. Oprah was the one that ushered Obama into office. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted David to quit on the blacks, because Oprah ushered him in. Oprah was in favor of Obama getting into office. Oprah was behind Obama, on the side of Obama, and as I might as well say, in front of Obama. She got him into office. And I said, David, I told you not to go on that show. He said, well, I'm done. I'm done. Now, David finally, once and for all, he got to know where Oprah Winfrey was coming from. David didn't trust Oprah Winfrey, and he was glad that the show was over with. And David told me that when he left Oprah Winfrey, he had to keep looking over his shoulder because he didn't trust Oprah. And well, nobody that, any of us, we know that Oprah is one of the queen bees, dark bees of the Illuminati. And so, I wouldn't trust her. And so, but David felt that it was over. Okay, now, David went home, and things began to happen to David, leading up to the course of time for him to go back into the executive office. Well, I should say, but that's right. Things began, because now, I'm not going to pinpoint the exact time and the exact date, but David was receiving threatening letters. He received a package in the mail. It was Bill Cosby. It was, who was another one? It was Bill Cosby. It was even Al, that's why I don't like Al Sharpton today. It was Bill Cosby, Al Sharpton, It was Whoopi Goldberg, and it was a few others that was into putting the pressure on David to stop this thing with the black race. Now that was before, and it was even afterwards. But they were putting the pressure on him, and so eventually down the line, David was doing his comedy in the local comedy clubs, but then he got a phone call again, and he said he called me and told me, he said, "Cuz," now what he said to his brother, I don't know. But I do know, because David wouldn't, like when David talked to his brother, he wouldn't tell his brother conversation that him and I had. And because David's brother and him, they were family, but they wasn't like David and I were. And David would, when he called and talked to me, he wouldn't tell me things that he told his brother. And but David called me again, and he said, "Cuz, they called me again." I said, "Who called you again?" He said, "The executives." And he said, they want to talk to me one more time. And they're thinking about the possibility of me doing the Chappelle show and doing it the way that I want to do it. I want to be, he said, because the only reason why I told them when I talked to them the last time that the only way I would do the Chappelle show again would be if I did it my way. And it would be set up on my terms. And so I received a phone call, and they want to talk to me about it. Well, my antennas went up. I said, "David, now you be careful now," because they could be saying that. He said, "No, I really think they're serious this time, cuz." He said, "Because I made it definite with them that the only way that he said, I told it on Oprah Winfrey show too, that the only way that I would do the Chappelle show again, it would have to be on my terms, my way, and that and the money that I make, even if it wasn't $50 million, it would have to go to the people, and but it had to be on my terms." So I said, "Okay, David." I said, "Well, do you trust him?" David said, "Yeah." David said, "Well, I think I can trust him this time." So I said, "Well, David, whatever the situation is, please give me a call." He said, "That's right, cuz." And so David left. We hung up. I should say we hung up. I have not heard from David, not even today. I have not heard from David. Now, what I think is this, that Neil Brennan is a question mark, 100%. A question mark. I believe that David went there, and they discussed once again about the $50 million, and I believe Neil Brennan was somewhere in that office. I believe he was somewhere in that office, and then they told. I'm believing that they told David that they wanted him to see something, just like they did Bernie Mac. Oh yes, indeed, they took Bernie. Let me stop on David for a few minutes. But they showed Bernie Mac the cloning lab, and they showed Bernie Mac the cloning lab, and he went down and he saw how people were being cloned. And when Bernie Mac came back and told Steve Harvey and D.L. Hughley and a few others, and that he saw the cloning lab, and that something had to be done to stop that foolishness of what they were doing. Well, Steve Harvey and D.L. Hughley went back and told the top brass of the Illuminati, the dark circle, dark circle, and what they did, they killed him. Okay, so now let's go back to David Chappelle. I'm truly believing that they told David they had something they wanted him to see. And they took David to the underground cloning lab. And when they took David down there, and I think that I'm believing that before they took David down there, they promised David that they would go along with his deal, with David's deal, to get him to sign the contract. And I'm believing that David, thinking that he would get back on the Chappelle show, working with Comedy Central, that everything was going to be all right. And I'm believing that David signed that contract thinking that. And when he signed that contract, they wanted David to go and look at something else. It could have been maybe telling him that maybe it was a new studio or something of some kind or what have you. But they got David, after signing the contract, you can say in blood, and David thinking that he's just signing the contract because things were going to work his way. And then once he signed the contract, they took him someplace else, and the place that they took him to was to the underground lab. And when they got him down there, they cloned David. And when they clone a person, and I want you to do your research, it's not like cloning is not like when a woman gets pregnant and they either eject her or, for her to have a clone or the baby girl, however that goes. It's not like that. Cloning today only takes a couple, maybe to several hours to be cloned. Well, this is what I strongly believe they did to David. They took him to this underground lab. And what they did is just smiling in his face and just going along with David so that David would not yield up or fight or this sort of thing. And they cloned him. And once they cloned David Chappelle, then they killed David Chappelle. Okay, and once they killed David Chappelle, that was it. Now they could do anything. It only takes a few hours to do this. And once they did this, then they had full control of this new Dave Chappelle. Now, some of you are thinking that when David first met with the executive, he signed his name in blood. I'm telling you all, no, he did not. When David first met, when they offered him the $50 million, no, he did not. No, he did not sign his name in blood. And I'm wondering if he signed his name in blood, even when the second time he met these executives. Because now, if David refused on the first time, and he told me that he was finished with it, and then he told me that, the only way he would go back, and I always believe, because David had no reason to lie to me, his wife, or his mother, or any of his family. So, but now, when he went back the second time, and I believe David refused, but, they had to clone him. And then once they clone him, this is what I'm thinking too, maybe this is a second phrase that maybe I'm thinking of, that when they cloned him, then they got the clone to sign David's name for not only $50 million, but the $60 million as well. Okay. And so this new person that you see out, let me say this. I had not heard from David when he was supposed to have met with the executives the second time, and Dave promised me and assured me he would call me to let me know the outcome. I have not heard from David since. When I turned my television on and I saw this man there on some kind of show, and he had one pants leg rolled all the way down and the other one rolled all the way up, and they said this was Dave Chappelle. I said, Dave, who? And I went to the television and I looked and I said, hell no, that ain't no David Chappelle or no Dave Chappelle. No, hell no. And so I got on the cell phone and I called my cousin David. And I called, the phone rang and it rang and it rang. I think it was maybe on the fourth or fifth ring that someone picked up the telephone and said, hello. I said, yeah, let me speak to David. And the person on the other end said, who are you? I said, I'm David Chappelle's cousin. And the phone clicked. it clicked. It went dead. So I called the number right back up again, and the phone rang and it rang and it rang. I never got in contact with David. Now, I called David's brother, William. You know, didn't get an answer from him either. I don't know what had happened, but I didn't get an answer from him. But when I saw this man on television with one pants leg all the way down and the other pants leg rolled up, I knew damn well that was not my cousin, not my Uncle William's son. Hell no. And when this new Dave had his pants leg rolled up, that was a symbol of the Masons. Now, David Chappelle was a practicing Muslim. My cousin Felicia, she's a practicing Muslim all the way. You see, David has children that has Muslim names. Now, why would all of a sudden this David turn from Muslim to Mason? It didn't add up. Okay, and then when they began to show this new Dave pictures of him, and I knew doggone well that wasn't David Chappelle, because now if you look at the old, and I'm going to show some pictures on here that with the JT anti New World movement is going to show pictures on here, I should say. You're going to see the old David in 2016, and then and maybe a year before, and you're going to see the old David Chappelle, and you're going to see the new Dave Chappelle, and you would now look at the comparison. Now, the old David, his eyes, David had, semi big eyes, but his eyes were more slanted than bulged out eyes. And David and I, we always talked about his weight. And I was, Dave, you need to get, they said, no, cause I don't want to be big. I want to stay small. I said, well, why? Because I can run fast. I can do things fast. David never believed in being a big, husky type person. This new person here today, they have him as a big, husky type person, like a bodybuilder. His eyes are budging out of his head. His neck is as big as one of the wrestlers' necks on the WrestleMania. You see, that's not, I'm telling you, you all can believe what you want to believe, but I know what I know. The family, the Chappelle family knows this. This is not our family member. This is not my cousin. And sure, his birth name is David, because my uncle's name, Uncle William, his name was William David Chappelle. Okay, so William, his son, is named after Uncle Williams, but David was named after the middle name of my uncle. And so now, so people would call him David, and some would call him Dave. It didn't matter. David would answer to David or Dave. But this new Dave that they have out, it looks nothing like the old David Chappelle. David would, when David was the old David, he would have like a mustache. The new Dave, they have a mustache, but a slight mustache, but it looks like it's painted on his face. It's not the mustache that the old David Chappelle had. And so now when they did David, made him a clone. Now this is the thing now. They knew that his wife and his children and his mother would know the difference. If they had, once they cloned David Chappelle and sent this new Dave back home, they would know the difference. This is not my husband. This is not my father, and this is not my son. So what they had to do, then they made threats to David earlier about taking out his wife, his children, and his mother. They told David at one time, this was all after they asked David to quit smashing on the black race as far as the character that he was playing on the Chappelle show. And they told David, too, that if he didn't stop, they would take out his mother, they would take out his wife, they would take out his children. And so now they knew that once they cloned Dave or David, whatever you want to call him, but I know him as David, that once he goes back to Ohio, the family would know that this is not the man. This is not, no, hell no, that ain't my husband. Because now you have to go to, it's a man of Russia, Putin. Because Putin is cloned too, whether you believe it or not, but you do your research and find out these things now here. And when Putin was cloned, his wife said, when they send him back home, she said, she got on in front of the cameras, she told everybody, this man is not my husband. She said, no, this is not my husband. This is a different man. And she saw the difference that this man had brought forth. Well, she was beginning to run her mouth a little bit too much. So what did they do? They didn't do it until Putin's wife was going to divorce Putin. And so what did they do? They cloned her. They cloned her. And now, if you ask her if Putin is her husband, she'll tell you, yes, that's my husband. And if you do your research on it, you'll find statements and bulletins that where she said at one time, that's not my husband. I don't know who this man is. This is an imposter that I'm living with. And, do your research and find out what she said. And so they figured if they sent David back home to his wife, his children, and his mother, they would say the same thing. So they had to do something. And so what they did, before they sent David back home to his family, they cloned his wife, Elaine, they cloned his children, and they cloned his mama, my aunt. And they cloned all of them. And so now they were able to send David back home to them. And they don't know the difference. And you know why they don't know the difference? Because they all have been cloned. They all have bing cloned. And if you go to them and ask them of the things, that I said about David, they'll look at you and say, no, something is wrong with her. She's, and they'll say this. Well, naturally they'll say this. So like they did with Princess Diana. Princess Diana knew so much. And, but what did they do? They cloned her. But see, the brain part of Princess Diana, the original, came into the brain of the clone Diana. And so the clone Diana, because as you know, Princess Diana, the original one, she used to cry all the time. You do your research now. She used to cry all the time. She would wipe away tears and this sort of thing. And so the clone Diana did the same thing. And Queen Elizabeth had taken this so long and so much, and they were unassured if the clone Diana would take on the concept of the original Diana by going and telling the things that she knew that the original Diana knew. So what did Queen Elizabeth? Now she didn't directly do it, but she had to order sit down. And so what did they do? They had her killed in a car accident to kill off the clone. So there will be no more Dianas to speak of. And so that's why they cloned David's wife, mother, and children, because they knew that David loved his family. And it wouldn't look right for David and all of his family to just all of a sudden, especially his family to die or something of that nature. So they had to clone them as well. And they're living happily ever after as clones on the farm in Ohio, in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And so, and what they're doing off of this clone David, they're going to use this clone David to make money off of. Oh, they're going to push this clone David. They're going to push him and push him. They're going to make so much money off of him until they can't make enough. And once they have made enough, then they're going to kill off the clone. But you see that if you listeners out there compare the original David to this new David, the original David Chappelle made people like this man. The original was funny. I mean, he was fun. He told you. I mean, he would tell jokes to me, and I would just laugh like that. But now this new clone, he's not as funny as the old David is. There are things that the old David did, this new David doesn't even do. He doesn't, and if you listen, but you have to listen closely to this clone's voice. I'm telling you, listen very closely. This new clone does not, because I've picked it up and several other Chappelle family members have picked it up. This new clone does not have the original tone voice that David Chappelle had. You see, does not have it. And then this new clone has David Chappelle's brain, his mindset. Now, David Chappelle, and I do believe this with my heart and my soul, because as I stated before, David and I, we were very, very close. I knew every gesture, every word that David would say. Sometimes I would say something and David would finish it. David would say something and I would finish it. The many times that David would come to the different cities or states and do his comedy shows, even at the comedy clubs, I was there. I was there. The time he came to Washington, D.C., because I'm in New York. I live in New York. But the time he came to Washington, D.C., Dave called me and told me to come on down to the Warner Club. I was there. And if you get the video, if you get that video of David being at the Warner Club in D.C., David will tell you on that stage, I have family members in the audience. Well, you know who that family members was? It was me and my damn family. And after the show was over, I went behind the stage and I talked to my David, my cousin. You see what I'm saying? So I do believe without a shadow of a doubt that David, when they cloned David, David was fighting all the way. I mean, he was resisting. And they didn't inject him with anything. No. And if David signed anything, if David signed a second contract, it was because David was believing, because he said the only way I'll redo the Chappelle show is that things have to be the way I want them to be. The funds will have to go to the people. He said it on Oprah Winfrey, and he said it to me. And so they had David thinking and believing, I do believe that's the way it would be. And to get him down, not get him down, but to take him to the underground cloning lab. And once they got him there and David saw what it was, David wanted to get the hell out of there, but they held him against his wishes. And when they held him against his wishes, that's when they put him in the cloning lab thing or whatever they put him in, and that's when they cloned him. And once they got a replica of David Chappelle, then they killed the original David Chappelle. They killed his ass. But they knew they were not ready to send him back home to his family yet. They knew they had to do something with the family to make it believable that the one that they were sending back to them was the original. This is how these people work. I'm telling you, and I know what I'm talking about. And because David was a funny man. He didn't have many friends. After he thought about his life, David didn't have many friends because the friends that he had, they turned on. And I truly believe that was that Neil Brennan turned on him. But the things that he said, what Neil Brennan said about David, and that was David's buddy. You see what I'm saying? And that's how it is in the show business world. And so when you look at this new being on television, and the man not even funny, this is not the original David Chappelle. You all go pay money to see his shows. And the money that you're paying, it's not going to David's family, because David's family is a bunch of clones. You're paying money to the Illuminati. That's who you're paying the money to. And so David's this David is not even funny. his jokes that he tells, and I look and I try to, you can't laugh because the man is nothing like the original. He doesn't, and if you listen to the tone of voice, he doesn't even sound like the old original David. And so, and it breaks me to my heart because I know now that and I haven't received another phone call from my cousin David. And it breaks me to my heart that I will never receive a phone call from David. We'll never receive another visit from him. You see, and it's sad. It is really sad. When David, he found himself, he wanted to get away from show business. And he said the only reason why he would come back to do the Chappelle show is that he would have to do it his way. And these people, whomever they are, they made him believe, yeah, well, Dave, and and I'm pretty sure it sounds convincing. They made him think and believe that Dave, this is the way we're going to do it. We'll do it your way. And because they had all intentions of taking Dave out, just like they did Martin Lawrence, just like they did Bernie Mac. And there are other stars that they have taken out. You see, and we think that they have died just in their sleeps, or they, or something of this nature happens to them, or something of that nature happens to them. You see, or they're one way before, and then they come back after a certain period of absence, and they come back a different way. This David has no soul. He has no spirit. Sure, he can eat and drink like like you and I can. He can drink like you and I can. He can bleed like you and I can. But the thing about it, he has no soul and no spirit. These type of clones are called synthetic robotoids. And that's what this new Dave Chappelle is. He's a synthetic robotoid. That's what Britney Spears is. That's what all the other of these singers and actors and actresses and comedians, that's what all of them are. And they have warned each and every one. They have told each and every one of them, each and every one of us, how, they hate they got into the business. Kanye West has said the same thing. Kanye West has spoken about, how he gave up his mother as a sacrifice. How, how the business is. He has told us about that. Britney Spears and I could go on and list, but there's so many. You see what I'm saying? But David, he tried to tell people about the business. When from the time that he stepped out of the executive office, of the torture and what they put upon him and what they said to him, it scared him so bad that he had to get away. And that's why he went to Africa. That's exactly why he went. But when he went to Africa, he had not signed his name in blood. So all of you who saying that he did, stop it. You stop it, because he did not sign his name in blood. I know. I talked to the man even after he came out of the meeting with the executive. I talked with him, and I could also tell you, some things that how I really, really know of how he talked to me about the things that went in the meeting, with the executive. But I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that, because that's why I'm keeping my voice anonymous, because they'll come after me too. They'll come after me. So I'm not going to go into debt as to the things beyond our conversations that David and I had, or the meetings that we have had, or the dinner talks, or the little drinks after, that we've had. No, I'm not going to do that. I have pictures of me and David together, and David, my uncle William, and the rest of the family members. I have pictures of us at the family reunions. I even have pictures of the times that I went to David's show, and him asking me to come on down, cuz. I have pictures of that. You see, but I don't have to prove to you, because I know that, the same blood that David had running in his veins and in his body, the original David, is the same blood that I have. We were first cousins. This new clone that's out there is nothing to me. He's not my cousin. I don't know this person, so he's nothing. My Aunt Yvonne, no, None of them people on that side, it means anything to me anymore because they're all clones. Now, you can believe it, you can accept it, or you can reject it, but I know what I know. And it's a sad thing because now I know that I will never receive any phone calls to tell me or to ask me, cuz, come on down. I will never laugh again, especially from him. And there's a whole lot of things that I will be missing out that comes directly from David to me. And so you all out there, you made your own thoughts, your own theories, things on YouTube or wherever you have it at, that you can put together the pieces of what you think that David did, the pieces that you did. No, sweetheart, I know what David did. And because David, he let me know all the way up until the minute. And he was supposed to call me after the second visit from the executives. And Oprah Winfrey, I'm telling you, Oprah Winfrey, Al Sharpton, Whoopi Goldberg, and there was a few others, and Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and a few. And did you know that, and let me tell you this too, David told me this too, did you know that David and my Aunt Yvonne went to a theater one day to see a movie? And when David told me that his mother, Aunt Yvonne, had went to the bathroom. Now, and then Al Sharpton came up to him and told him that he didn't like what he was doing, that David was doing in portraying the blacks on the Chappelle show. Did you all know that? No, I didn't get this. This is what my cousin David told me. And he told me some other things too that I'm not going to go into details about, because like I said, this is why I am keeping my voice anonymous, because they'll come after me. So there's a few things I can say and a few things I can't say, but I do know with a fact, 175%, that the man that you see on TV as Dave Chappelle is nothing but a Robotoid clone. That's all he is. He has no blood running in his veins. Oh yes. Cut him. Oh, he'll bleed. But it's not the blood like David Chappelle had veins all over his body. And this man here, his jokes is not funny. I want no parts of this new clone. And I found out that this new Dave Chappelle went to the White House. Now, David Chappelle never, ever went to the White House. Never, ever been inside the White House on the White House ground. Now, this new clone is at the White House. He's hanging with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. He's there, here, everywhere. The old David didn't do that. The old David didn't do that. That's why he bought the farm in Ohio, to have his freedom, to have his privacy. Sure, when it needed be, yeah, he was around certain of the people that starred on this Chappelle show. And David was crazy about Charlie Murphy. Yes, Charlie Murphy was another one of his buddies. Now, this new clone David killed Charlie Murphy, had Charlie Murphy killed. Believe what I'm saying now. This new Dave Chappelle, this clone, made Charlie Murphy a blood sacrifice. This new clone. Why? Because it has to continue to be money coming in. Now, I talked to Charlie Murphy on the telephone too, not in length like I did with my cousin David, but there were times when I would talk to Charlie. Little cuz, how you doing? So, I'm fine, Charlie. How you doing? I'm okay. I'm with Dave. I said, yeah, I see that you're with Dave. So, and each time that I would talk with him, his voice was strong. His voice was strong. And, asked him how he was doing, this sort of thing. And like I said, I didn't talk to Charlie Murphy like I would with Dave. And there wasn't no constant talking to Charlie Murphy like I did with David Chappelle. But I do want to say this, is that this new Dave made Charlie Murphy a sacrifice. And the reason why is because that you have to do it in order to go higher. And this is what they, them, the dark inner circle, the Illuminati, had to have this new Dave Chappelle to do to go higher. So whether you believe this or not, Everything that I've said to you is nothing but the truth. You have your own theories that you want to give, that you think that happened to David Chappelle, my cousin, or even with Charlie Murphy. You can think what you want to believe, but I'm telling you, listeners out there, it's sad to me and it breaks my heart to know that my cousin, a person that was in my life, his father and my father were brothers. And it hurts me to know that the child that my Uncle William gave birth to, well, his wife did, is no longer here with us anymore. And they are perpetrating this new clone. And I consider him as a demonic spirit. That's all he is. Anyway, he's demonic. He has no spirit. To portray himself as the original and ongoing David or Dave Chappelle. So I wanted to come forth to let you all know the truth. Now, you can say, I'm just like Billy here on the JT Anti-New World Order. I'm just like Billy. You can say what you will or may say about me. And as Billy said once also, you can call me crazy and you can call me this or call me that. But you or no one else will ever erase the memories that my cousin David Chappelle and I had together. You can never erase that. You can never take away the pictures that we shared together at family reunions and and other places that we gathered together. You can never erase that from my mind. This new clone who's going around saying he's Dave Chappelle, I want no parts of this man. I want no parts of his family, because they're not my family. I don't care whether if they suggested that, have to have him to call, to have me to come down to one of his shows, I will not go. You're not going to get me like they got the original Dave Chappelle. I'm not going because, see, I know in my heart, deep in my heart, that this man is not the man that my Uncle William gave birth to. And so I'm letting you all know that Dave did not sign his name in blood when he first met with the executives. He did not. And I doubt very seriously if he signed his name in blood the second time he met with the executives. You all are saying this because this is all what you think. Dave was well enough to take care of his family, his wife, his children, his mother, and his farm. Dave was already taken care of. You see, but only thing that Dave, he loved doing comedy, and he wanted to do something with his name included in it, and that was the Chappelle Comedy Show. And I believed he was tricked into doing the comeback, thinking he was going to do just that, to renew it, affiliated from Comedy Central. So you all can keep on flourishing with what you think that happened, and you'll never know the truth. Because do you think that the executives is going to tell you the truth? Do you actually think that? Hell no. These people have been lying for years. Listen to the stars. Listen to what Lil Wayne has said. Listen to what Kanye West has said, Britney Spears, Nicki Minaj. Look at what Nicki Minaj have said. Just do your research and listen to what these people have said about how they wish they had never, ever gotten into that. But you know something? You'll never hear this new clone saying that. But the old David Chappelle did. You'll never, ever hear this new clone speaking anything against the Illuminati. Oh, he'll talk about the Illuminati, but he won't speak against them. But David Chappelle did. He said it on the Oprah Winfrey Show. He said it on the studio acting stage to all of those young people out there who wanted to to become comedians and actors and actresses. He told them that. You see? So you all continue to believe what you want to believe, but only I have the evidence. Only I know the truth. And some of that evidence and the truth, and I know the truth will stay in my heart until the day that I die. You see, and as I stated before, David Chappelle has a lot of Chappelle family. And majority of the Chappelle family are teachers. Morehouse College once was. We have a person right here on television today that's a member of the family. Sure, they may spell their name Chappell, but they're still a part. The roots come from the Chappelle family. The roots come from. And people are talking, the family are talking about this clown, C-L-O-W-N, this clown that's on television today portraying himself as Dave Chappelle. You see, one pants leg down, the other one rolled up. And he's portraying himself as a Mason when we all know that the original David Chappelle was a practicing Muslim. His sister, Felicia, is a practicing Muslim. His children have Muslim names. So all of a sudden now, he's a Mason. That's bullshit. And I hate that. I'm saying what Billy says. You know, that's bullshit. You see, so I'm so sad in heart now because my cousin David died. And he died the day he went into that executive office thinking that he was going to get what he always wanted, the Chappelle show to be reinstated on his terms. That was the day that he died. And so I just come forth to let you all know the truth. Now, you can accept it, as I said before, you can reject it, or you can believe it. I don't care what you believe. But we know who that man is on TV is not the man that my Uncle William helped produce. Now, you can go ask his mother, Aunt Yvonne. Well, she's not even my aunt anymore, but you can go ask her, and she'll tell you, David has his own way. David has his own, and naturally, she's going to say that. Yes, she's going to say that because she's a damn clown. Her, the children, and his wife. They have no souls. They have no spirits. But they can eat like you and I can eat. They can drink like you and I can drink. So, I just wanted to, like I said before, I'm getting tired now, but I just wanted to come forth and share this with you because I have heard so many theories, that so many people giving this side and that side and this side and that side. And there's only one side to it. And that's the side that I know. And like I said, I have some things now. But this is why I'm keeping my voice in anonymous. Because they will come after me. They will kill me. Yes, they would. They would kill me. They would kill me. And if they knew what I knew, that I knew for a fact, that this clown, C-L-O-W-N, is not my cousin, David Chappelle. I know what I know. So I just, once again, I'm going to get finished with this. I just wanted to let you all know. And so stop your theories. Stop the make-believe. Stop saying what you think could happen. Or that he signed his name in contract with, when he left the executive office and, and David, he needed money and David, no, he didn't. All the shit that you're saying is not true. And I'm not saying this because David and I, we were close, and the fact that we're cousins. I'm saying this because I know what I'm talking about. And I could bust your eyes and ears open with knowledge. I better not go too far, though, with this. I better not go too far because I don't want to tell everything, but I know. His wife doesn't know. I know. His wife probably would have known, But I know because now she's a clone. And the children, and David had a beautiful little girl. And I'm not going to tell you her name, but they got Muslim names, his daughter and his two sons. And she was the most, she looked like, Elaine, but then when you really look at her, she has David's features too, and his sons did as well. And David loved those children. He loved those children, and he loved Elaine. But today, David doesn't even see them half as much. This new Dave doesn't see them half as much. Why? It's because they don't have the soul. They don't have that spirit like David had for his wife when he was yet alive. You see, when you're alive, you can love. When you have the blood running down your veins and you have that soul, you can love that person. You can love that wife of yours. You can love that children. And you don't want to spend time away from those children and your wife. You can love that mother. You don't want to spend time away from them. You want to do your job and come back home to your family because you love them. Well, this new Dave is not going to do that. He can't do that. Because without a soul, without a spirit, without a heart-warming blood in your body, how can you feel that way? You can't feel that way. And they don't feel that way towards him. But just go back and listen to the old original David Chappelle and what he said about his family. This man was crazy about his wife, number one, his children, number two, and his mother. And go back to the fact of what he said about Uncle William, his father. Uncle Williams was the turning point in David's life. David could go to him. And there were some times when David, we were all young, and David, he was a little smart aleck kid, this sort of thing. But David was crazy about his father. Uncle Williams would just sit back sometime and look at David, and not only at David, but at his other son, William Jr. too. Those are my boys. And he was crazy about his daughter, his youngest daughter, Felicia, who's now a full-bloom practicing Muslim. You see, but today, this new clown, C-L-O-W-N, will never, ever feel that way about his wife, children, or they can try to pretend, but they can't, but it's not. Look at, I want to say one more thing, too, before I get ready to go. We have the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. And we have his wife, Melania, whatever her name is. I can't pronounce it correctly. But now, Donald Trump is a clone. Oh, yes, he's a clone. And his wife is too. But when you see them two together, they show no love. He doesn't show the love for her like Obama showed for his, for his, let me put it, Michelle. See, with Donald Trump, there's no love. When he kisses her, take notice of these things, people. When he kisses her, it's not the kiss of love. You see, when he holds her hand, it's not the holding hands of compassion. It's the holding hands and the kissing because it's the formal thing to do of a robotoid. So that's why you don't see any love, really special love going from him to her and her to him. But they're acting like everyday people, going back and forth, up and down, this sort of thing. And people will say, oh, those are human beings. But you better think about it, you see. And that's how this new clone, Dave Chappelle, and his wife, and his children and his mother's going to be. They're going to go through a routine because it was programmed into their brain to be and to do what they're supposed to do to the ones that they call their spouses. See, even though they took the brain out of David Chappelle, not the brain actually, but the mind concepts of David Chappelle into this new Dave, but still they had to program him to do what was told of him to do by programming him. This is a robot toy. So you have to understand that. So, these people today, this new clone and his wife, Elaine, and their children, and the mother, Yvonne, they're going to go through the procedures as mother to son, wife to husband, and the children to father. But it's not going to be like the original. Like the original. You can go out there and buy a pair of shoes that was made by the original. And then you can lose those shoes and go out there and get another pair that looks exactly like the original. But somehow or another, they won't fit right. It'll be something loose on that new pair of shoes that's not affiliated with the original. They won't be able to walk right because it's not affiliated with the original. You will be able to tell if you just check it closely and wisely, that this new shoe is not the same as the original. And you people, if you have minds, you'll take notice of that. That's all I can say. But I want no parts. He's not my cousin. Yvonne is not my aunt. Elaine, she's not David's wife, and the children as well. I don't know these people. We're going to still continue to have the Chappelle family reunion. He may come. They may give orders for him to come. I won't be there because there's still some in the Chappelle family that recognize this damn CLOWN as the original. You see, because they don't have the evidence that I have. They don't have the memory that I have. So, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you're not going to fool this damn bitch none of the time. You see, I just want to leave you with that. So just continue on making your theories or making your thoughts as to what you think or what you think you know. But it all comes back to what I know and what I have to know for a F period, A period, C period, T period, that this CLOWN is not my cousin. So I just wanted to bring forth this, and I thank you, JT Anti-New World Order, for allowing me to be able to come forth to speak this. And I'm so sorry that to you and to your listeners, that I have to be anonymous, but I'm going to protect myself as much as I can. So I do want to thank you, and if there's anything that I can do in the future to help you out or to let you know of what's going on, please feel free to call me again. So to all of you who are listening out there, make your replies, say what you want to say, but just know one thing. I am the original. I am the original. I have blood running up and down my veins. I have a spirit, and I have all the memories and all the evidence of what I know and whom I know of the original David Chappelle, my first cousin. Good night.